My name is Evelyn Harper, and I'm 62 years old. I live in a modest brick house on the edge of Whitehaven in Memphis, Tennessee, the same neighborhood where I raised my only child, Jamal, after his daddy walked out when the boy was 3. Back then, the rent was cheap, the streets were loud with children playing stickball, and the air always smelled like barbecue smoke from Mr. Johnson's pit down the block. I taught 3rd grade at Lester Elementary for 37 years, coming home with chalk dust on my skirts and stories in my head about kids who needed more than just fractions and spelling words. I never remarried. I never needed to. Jamal was my whole world. I still remember the day he was born, August 15th, 1987, at Regional Medical Center. He came out screaming, fists balled like he was already fighting for something. I held him against my chest and whispered, "You gonna be somebody, baby, somebody big." And he believed me, or at least he used to. I worked doubles when I could, summer school, tutoring after hours, even weekend shifts at the library shelving books just to make ends meet. No vacations to Disney World like the other families, no new Nikes every season, but I made sure Jamal had books, a decent trumpet for band, and a savings account I fed every paycheck like it was holy. When he got into Vanderbilt on a partial scholarship for engineering, I cried in the bathroom at school so nobody would see. Then I went home and sewed name tags into every piece of clothing he took to Nashville, like I could stitch my love into the fabric so it wouldn't fade when he left. He called every Sunday. "Mama, the cafeteria food ain't nothing like yours. Mama, I aced that circuits exam. Mama, thank you for everything." I lived for those calls. When he graduated magna cum laude and landed a job at a big firm in Nashville, designing commercial buildings, I drove up for the ceremony in my old Buick, wearing the same navy dress I'd worn to his high school graduation. He hugged me so tight on stage I thought my ribs would crack. "Everything I am is because of you," he said, into the microphone. The whole auditorium heard it. I believed him. Then he met Veronica Bennett. She was beautiful in that polished, money way. Blonde hair always perfect, skin like porcelain, teeth straight from a catalog. Her family owned half the real estate in Belle Meade, those big houses with columns and circular drives where the grass looks manicured by God himself. Veronica worked in event planning, which mostly meant throwing parties for people who already had everything. Jamal met her at a charity gala his company sponsored. He called me that night, voice shaky with excitement. "Mama, she's different. She's special." I wanted to be happy for him. I was. But something in his voice had changed, like he was measuring his words against a new standard I didn't fit. The first time I met her was at a restaurant in Green Hills, one of those places where the menu doesn't have prices and the waiter calls you sir like it's a title. I wore my best dress, the navy one with the pearl buttons, and the pearl necklace my mother left me when she passed in '99. Those pearls weren't fancy. They were small, a little uneven, but real. Daddy bought them for her on their 10th anniversary with overtime money from the Firestone plant. Mama wore them every Sunday to church until the day she died. They were the only thing of value I owned, and I never took them off except to clean them. Veronica was polite, too polite. She smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. "Mrs. Harper, it's so nice to finally meet you. Jamal talks about you all the time." She said my name like she was tasting it, careful, like it might stain her tongue. We talked about the weather, about Jamal's job, about the wedding they were already planning even though they'd only been dating 8 months. She mentioned the venue, a restored mansion on the Harpeth River. "It's exclusive," she said. "Only a certain kind of family gets in." I nodded, smiled, asked about flowers. Jamal squeezed my hand under the table like he used to when he was little and scared of thunderstorms. After dinner in the parking lot, Veronica air-kissed my cheek. "We'll have to do this again soon, Mrs. Harper." Jamal hugged me longer than usual. "Love you, Mama." I drove the 2 hours back to Memphis with the radio off, just the hum of tires and my own heartbeat. The engagement party was at the Bennett house. White columns, marble foyer, chandeliers that looked like frozen fireworks. I arrived early with a homemade sweet potato pie, my mama's recipe, the one Jamal always asked for on his birthday. Veronica's mother, Lillian Bennett, greeted me at the door. She was tall, thin, hair the color of expensive champagne. "Lillian, dear, come in. Let me take that pie." She said pie like it was a foreign word. The house smelled like lilies and money. Guests in linen suits and silk dresses drifted around like they owned the air itself. I stood by the fireplace, holding a glass of sparkling water, watching Jamal laugh at jokes I didn't understand. Veronica floated over in a cream dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. "Mrs. Harper, you look comfortable." Lillian appeared beside her daughter. "Lillian, we're so glad you could make it. Jamal is like a son to us already." She smiled the way people smile when they're doing you a favor by speaking to you. The toast started. Veronica's father praised Jamal's drive and potential. Lillian raised her glass. "To the future, to family that elevates." Everyone clapped. I clapped too, even though the word elevates stuck in my throat like a bone. Later, as people mingled, I went to the kitchen to help set out dessert. That's when it happened. I was carrying the pie to the buffet when Lillian stepped in front of me, glass of Chardonnay in hand. She tripped, or so she claimed, and the red wine splashed across my chest, soaking the navy fabric, dripping onto the pearls. The necklace darkened with burgundy stains. The room went quiet. "Oh my goodness," Lillian said, hand to her mouth. "How clumsy of me. That cheap jewelry doesn't belong at a table like this anyway. It clashes." The word cheap echoed. Guests stared. Jamal stood frozen near the staircase, eyes wide but silent. Veronica touched his arm, whispering something. Nobody moved to help. I felt the heat rise in my face, not from anger, but from something deeper, something that had been building since the first polite Mrs. Harper. I set the pie down carefully, wiped my hands on a napkin, and looked straight at Lillian. "These pearls belonged to my mother," I said quietly. "She wore them through cancer treatments, through burying her husband, through raising me alone on a seamstress's pay. They're not cheap. They're priceless." Silence thicker than the wine. I turned to Jamal. "Baby, you gonna say something?" He looked at his shoes. "Mama, maybe we can get it cleaned." I nodded once. "Maybe." I walked out the front door without another word. The night air was cool. I got in my Buick, started the engine, and drove home. The whole way, those pearls felt heavier around my neck than ever before. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with coffee and the phone book. I called Mr. Ellis, the attorney who'd handled Mama's will years ago. Lillian, he said, surprised. "Everything all right?" "No," I told him, "but it's about to be." See, nobody knew, not Jamal, not Veronica, not Lillian, that over the years I'd bought a small rental property in Midtown. Nothing fancy, a duplex on Madison Avenue. I'd bought it in '05 with savings from extra tutoring and a small inheritance from an aunt. I'd rented it quietly, never told Jamal, because I didn't want him feeling pressure. The equity had grown. By 2025, it was worth a little over $400,000. I'd put it in a revocable trust years ago, naming Jamal as beneficiary, but with conditions. One clause said any transfer or sale required my written approval until he turned 40. Another said if he ever publicly disowned or humiliated me, the property reverted to a scholarship fund at Leicester Elementary for kids from single-parent homes. I never thought I'd trigger it, but life has a way of showing you who people really are. The wedding was 3 months later, a Saturday in June, at the River Mansion. I was invited, of course I was. Appearances matter to the Bents. I wore a simple gray silk dress I'd bought on sale at Dillard's, no jewelry except my wedding band from a marriage that didn't last. The pearls stayed home, cleaned and locked in my dresser. I arrived alone. The valet looked surprised when I handed him my keys. Inside, white roses everywhere, string quartet playing Vivaldi, guests in pastels and seersucker. I found my seat, back row, near the aisle, not the family table, not even close. Jamal saw me during the processional. He smiled, tight, nervous. Veronica gladed down in ivory lace, veil trailing like a cloud. Lillian sat front row, beaming. During the reception, under a tent overlooking the river, there were speeches. Veronica's father praised the merging of families. Lillian stood up. To Jamal and Veronica, may your life be filled with elegance, opportunity, and the right kind of people. Polite laughter. Then the slideshow started. Photos of Jamal and Veronica in Europe, at galas, on yachts. Not one picture of me, not his graduation, not Christmas mornings, not the day he won the science fair in 5th grade when I stayed up all night helping him glue the volcano. I sat there, hands folded, heart steady. When the toasts ended, I walked to the microphone. The DJ hesitated, but I smiled. May I? Jamal looked alarmed. Veronica whispered something. I spoke clearly. I raised Jamal alone, worked 2 jobs, sewed his clothes when we couldn't afford new ones, prayed over him every night. He used to call me his hero. Today, I'd like to give him something. I pulled an envelope from my purse. This is the deed to a property I've owned for 20 years, a duplex in Midtown Memphis. It's worth about $400,000 now. I put it in trust for Jamal, but with a condition. The tent went dead quiet. If he ever chooses to erase me from his life, if he lets others make me feel small or invisible, the property goes to a scholarship fund at my old school for kids like we used to be. I looked at Jamal. Baby, I love you, but love don't mean letting somebody walk over you. You chose your path, now walk it. I set the envelope on the gift table and walked out. Nobody stopped me. In the parking lot, I heard heels clicking behind me. Veronica. Mrs. Harper, Lillian, wait. I turned. She looked smaller without the spotlight. He didn't mean. We didn't know. You knew enough, I said. You knew when your mama called my pearls cheap. You knew when you left my pictures out of that slideshow. You knew when you seated me in the back like hired help. Tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. Sorry is for accidents. This wasn't one. I got in my car and drove home. Jamal called the next week. Voicemail. Mama, please, let's talk. I messed up. I see it now. I didn't call back. Lillian called too. This is ridiculous. That property should stay in the family. I hung up. Months passed. The scholarship fund got the duplex. I named it the Jamal Harper Future Builders Fund because even if he forgot who built him, I didn't. I still live in my little house, geraniums on the porch, coffee every morning at 6. I teach piano lessons to the neighborhood kids now. They call me Miss Lillian. They hug me when they leave. Sometimes I take out the pearls, hold them in the light. They're clean again. No wine stains, just quiet, steady beauty. And every time I put them on, I remember, some things can't be bought. Some things can't be erased. Love, dignity, a mother's hands, those are the real heirlooms, and nobody can spill wine on them forever. The end.